So the day finally came and Spider-Man 2 is here. This game is absolutely amazing and shockingly doesn't have too many bugs in it from my experience. So the 19 inches of Venom is indeed valid. Anyway, Spider-Man 2 has 42 trophies within for the platinum. It only took me 22 hours to do. So I don't know what the heck the IGN or other game company people were doing the whole time when playing it, but it sure wasn't grinding for the platinum trophy because they took so much longer than I did. The game's trophies are honestly super spread out until the ending. So in my playthrough, I basically had 0 trophies the entire time and finished the main story off with around 11 trophies done. The way I went about these was focusing nearly entirely on the main story and ignoring everything else on the way. I also played through the main story all on spectacular difficulty because I love hard things, especially when in relation to Venom. So the story begins with an opening cutscene from Harry and Norman. Harry finally got out of his crippled pod, and Norman's only solution to helping him not be crippled is to infect the poor kid with Venom himself right away. God, I love how we already got exposed to the 19 inches of Venom. This is amazing. We then got to see Peter and Miles both in school this time, and I gotta say, this whole interaction between them was kind of cringe, but both characters also got a major downgrade in my opinion. Like, Peter low-key be looking like a grown-up Atreus from God of War who found Jesus, and Miles looks like a 1200 V-Bucks Fortnite skin who comes with a pickaxe also. The two web shooters then made it to the roof of Miles' school and off in the distance see a giant sandstorm. And obviously this is a little weird since New York's only major problem nowadays is everything besides sandstorms. So we both suit up and get to play the actual game for the first time. And I gotta say, the web slinging in this game is amazing. And the color palette of the city and scenery is also way better than the original. But nonetheless, on the way to the Sandman, we got a call from MJ, and Jesus Christ. I don't know who at Insomniac Games said that this was okay, but dude, she's literally a different person, and not in a good way. This is what I imagine models look like once they take off all the makeup and remove the implants. I swear she looks like Dream if Dream went through a body transformation and became a female. I could go on all day about her ugly face, but I won't. Instead, we made it to the Sandman and immediately got a boss fight, which is very similar to the last games and their introductions as well. Except instead of a fat man fighting us, it's just nature. This fight was kind of goofy because he is literally sand, and how do you even beat that? But Peter ended up in his hands at one point, and he just straight up threw us to heaven, or the stock floor of this building. We then got to run away from him, and let's just ignore the fact that I got lost and died right away. We don't talk about it. I played this at 1 AM. A new Sandman ability was also seen in this game, in which it lets him spawn in minions to fight you. I'm not sure how this works, but these sand people low-key made me upset. And not only because sand gets everywhere, and I can't imagine how uncomfortable that suit is for Peter. A bit later in the fight, Miles and Peter finally team up and find out how to beat Sandman. You do it by charging up Peter's spider arms with Miles' exaggerated swagger of a black teen, and then basically just shock Sandman's heart with copious amounts of energy to the point where he reaches a climax and splits apart, falling into the water with both Spider-Man also. We then got a cutscene which showed us Kraven the Hunter for the first time, and he is one of the main villains for the game. And that was the introduction to Spider-Man 2, giving us the first trophy of the story. Next, we are back in New York City, and we just had to do a few helping out tasks for all the dumb citizens who don't have superpowers and rely on us with their lives. The next few missions available were basically all just introductions to different side quests and other objectives to do if you want, or if you're like me, you just ignore them with all entirety the whole game until the end. It's not procrastination, it's called strategic timing.
That's what I'm saying.
But I did get another trophy later on for purchasing quite a few suits as they were made available. We then got punished and had to go see MJ in person as she and Peter are sort of living together in Aunt May's house. And then had to do a super boring mission where we just did the chores and looked at Peter back in his prime. And to make it even better, Harry showed up. Also, he looks weird. And then they made us ride bikes around the block with Harry, and there was supposed to be this good song playing in the background as we did it, but for copyright reasons I turned on streamer mode, which just made nothing play and felt almost as empty as my soul. And we actually rode those bikes all the way to high school, and then had a whole entire flashback mission as Peter and Harry in high school. And this was low-key one of the worst missions in the entire game. But it ended off with Harry asking Peter to join his foundation to help save koala bears from dying to chlamydia, a real-world problem. Finally, we got to play as Spider-Man again, and we ended up on the raft, which is that amazingly secure prison that has never once been broken into. And we get introduced to Kraven the Hunter and his minions for the first time in the game. This mission consisted of a ton of combat with them on boats, which was honestly a lot of fun and kind of hard here and there. I'm also fully convinced that this game's spectacular difficulty is like at least 4 times harder than the first one, because I remember that being extremely easy and this was not. We then got to play as Miles, and our objective is to save workers and survivors in the ship that is sinking. But whilst doing so, we got baited into letting Scorpion out. But I gotta give it to him, he did a pretty convincing little boy voice, so I'll let it pass this one time. Miles, however, got stung and went on a little trip, which he honestly probably would have enjoyed had he not currently been on the job. But once the fun ended, Miles stumbles over and sees that Martin Lee himself is there, who is in fact the same man who killed Miles' father previously. Sadly, Miles choked and had a stroke, whilst Kraven's people captured Lee and took him away, leaving us to fight them after. We then tried to get him back, and Miles, instead of capturing him, just talked to him, and we lost him again. And lost like half this pier also, but that's what the taxpayers are here for, so it's okay. Peter and Miles then had a mission debrief on the bridge nearby, and Miles asked why MJ looks like a man. Peter said he was into it. I then went and did a trophy called Brooklyn Pride, which was a side quest line that I think had 4 different missions in it. And the first one, oh my goodness. In summary, we had to help this gay kid ask out his boyfriend to the homecoming dance. So yeah, that was definitely something. I can't really say much else because, you know... Okay. Anyways, we got that trophy after a few other missions, but those weren't anything special, and the Brooklyn Pride trophy popped, which I can definitely confirm they have lots of pride. Then the game takes a full 180, and we do a ton of stealth kills until finding the black cat, and oh my god, does she got a dumpy. So my review of Spider-Man 2 is now a 10 out of 10, at least they didn't ruin her character model. I also then got introduced to the Mysterio mission line, which for some reason this first one had me DJ for way too long, and it was so awkward because it just didn't end for minutes upon minutes. And then we got to play as the whole gang, except Miles, because he's probably on top of his death girlfriend right now, so we leave him to be. Nonetheless, this mission literally just consisted of fair games and rides, and had absolutely nothing to do with trophies, which made me very upset because I did everything there in expectation for something in return. But we eventually got to put on our spandex and fight people, so my wiener was a tad bit pleased after all. The next mission has us and Harry trying to help Tombstone be set free from Kraven, who is after all of the old villains in the game. Now, Tombstone actually tried to turn his life around after I beat his meat in the last game, so it was a good thing to see that we got him out safely. But Harry is going full-on Venom mode right now, and this is where the end of the end begins. He also tried to take my suit off, and I had to explain to him that I wasn't wearing anything else, so he stopped thankfully. We then went after Kraven again and got to play as MJ, which I thought would suck since so far my impression of her is nothing good. But her missions in this game actually weren't awful since you can actually make the enemies suffer a painful evening. I would say a painful death, but this game is all about not killing people, which is still capped since I know Peter has definitely paralyzed a few men and probably killed many. But this mission's purpose was for us to just save Dr. Connors, who isn't even evil in this game, shockingly. And we did that, but then Kraven himself showed up and stopped us. And finally, Peter and Harry made an appearance also. We then got to fight with fire and destruction surrounding us, which looks just like my life burning down around me. Peter then tried to fight Kraven, and Kraven blocked his punch, which was such a shock to Peter that he ended up getting stabbed brutally in the side, which pretty much made him a cripple like Harry. So much so that Harry's suit actually decided to switch teams over to Peter and take over his hormones and testosterone from now on. This also left Harry a cripple again. So a sad day for the lad, but we got Venom powers now and are basically unstoppable, getting a trophy after all of the action.
19 inches of Venom.
But like all good things must come to an end, so did Spider-Man's time here, and we then got to play as Peter Parker again and do his new job after getting fired from teaching. But sadly, I bet this pays more anyway. At least it did before Peter made an absolute mess of everything like usual. So we put the suit back on and crashed the party for Kraven's people by just putting them all into full bodily shock. We then got to do a mini boss fight with this ginormous man who looks just like Kraven. He just doesn't have the status yet, I guess. And after nearly winning, I died sadly and got thrown into a wall and watched as my body ragdolled. Then we had this absolute iconic fight with Kraven in this bell tower, which reminds me so much of Spider-Man 3. And it even works the same way in this game. The Venom thing's only weakness is sound. So my ex-girlfriend could have easily defeated Venom with how annoying she is.
Bitch!
Much later, I did that mission from the trailer that they showed us, and I'm not gonna lie, this was the only trailer I watched for the game, and the mission was indeed fun. But I just wish there was more like it, since there isn't really a ton of these really out-of-the-way and in-depth missions in the game, which is kind of disappointing since they could have done so much more with the game, and they just didn't. After that, however, I got to do a wonderful boss fight with the Lizard, and I died not once, not twice, but 3 times before finally beating the idiot and then chasing him around the city in good fashion as we do many times in the Spider-Man universe. This was actually an amazing fight sequence though, and I was kind of sad when it ended with Kraven just shooting us both off of the top of a building, and we woke up Skyrim style underground for another boss fight, which had me really struggling this time. I don't even want to count how many times I ceased to exist in this realm, but it was bad. Anyways, we finally got Dr. Connor shirtless again, and it's the first time I've ever been relieved to see a skinny white boy's nipples. And then finally got a trophy after that mission. I'm gonna skip a little bit in the story here since we haven't really gotten any trophies, but basically since Peter was all Venom now, all of his friends hate him and we end up as Miles again on another boss fight mission with Mr. Lee, or as the game refers to him as Mr. Negative. So yeah, again in similar fashion, I died a lot. I think this fight might have been one of the most times I've ever died, and it was a swell time. But at least the fight was cool and not dry like your mom.
What did he say?
Anyways, we made it into his mind at one point, and I got a combat trophy while I was there. We then headed back to reality, and we're about to finish Lee off, but instead threw him out of the arena so we could both escape, and a trophy trophy popped after the mission ended. Miles and Peter then had a decently hard fight, which ends with Peter not being Venom anymore, and a trophy after that. But now Harry gets to be Venom again and goes full on with his body transformation, looking like Sam Solik probably does in the shadows. And thank God they let us be him, because this next mission was insane. We literally just rampage as Venom through the streets and commit so many crimes even Epstein would look surprised. We also got to fight Kraven the Hunter finally and ended up beating him, which wasn't a surprise. However, what happened next kind of was. Harry or Venom straight up just ate Kraven's head. So yeah, that happened, and I think that's the first real death of anyone in the Spider-Man games, aside from that one chick in the Miles Morales game.
Who the f is that guy?
But after Venom showed us his plan for world domination, we got a trophy. A bit later, we near the ending of the game, and Harry shows up to MJ and Peter's house. He then turns MJ into a Venom monster, and we got a giant boss fight with her, which, Jesus, dude. I literally just could not do it and died so many times. I know this is like a recurring theme, but this one fight had so many phases in it, and I heard the same two voice lines from these people more times than I've ever heard anything in my entire life. So much so that I low-key went crazy doing so. But we finally did it, and the mustard and ketchup boss fight ended. Lord have mercy. These two then kissed it out, and I cried, but got a trophy. Peter also got a cool anti-Venom suit, which gave us a trophy on the next mission also. And finally, we were at the end of the story, which, as you could probably guess, had a big old boss fight with Venom. Now, I died a lot like usual, but really died inside once it ended and we had to look at MJ again, which hurt the game so bad it crashed. Game of the year.
Oh my god!
Anyways, the rest of the game pretty much just had a ton of cutscenes in it, but it basically ends with you beating Venom, Harry becoming crippled again, and some stupid lore back at MJ and Peter's house. We finally got the ending trophy and can now really begin to grind some trophies for once.
Your little nuts are gonna be quaking.
The beginning of the cleanup was sort of a mess, to be honest, since I had so much to do, and I didn't really know what to start with. But I got a combat trophy while I was closing a symbiote nest, and after that I got another combat trophy while I was in a Mysterio thing. I then did an easy trophy which had you run the bases at the baseball field in the city, and then like an hour later I finished some more Mysterio missions which gave me another trophy. And then I took every single picture of the most random things in this game. However, I gotta say this was super easy because of the fast travel, and made this cleanup goodbye very fast. I then did the 30 trick trophy without touching the ground, which made it sound like you had to do 30 in a row, but in reality you can just swing around and do a couple tricks here and there, and then swing some more so you don't fall and break your legs. I also finished all the Prowler missions, which were little side quest things that Miles' uncle left him to do. And after a family intervention about Miles' gay haircut, we got a trophy. And finally, I actually did every single Mysterio mission, which had a ton to be honest. But we ended up finding out it wasn't actually Mysterio who was the bad guy. It was his two assistant women who were pulling all the strings behind the scenes. Can't ever trust a woman, man, I swear to God. I then did all the Marco memories, which were the Sandman questline objectives. These were extremely easy, probably because it's the first thing you get introduced to after the game's intro. But it ends with us delivering a little package to Sandman's kid, so W a wholesome game. There was this other Kraven Hunter side quest which has you chase after his bird drones, and once you chase them all down, it leads you to this villain's hideout. And after snooping around and nearly being gassed to death, we escaped and see the villain just watching us in the backdrop. But he gave us a trophy, so we don't mind. I then did my last quest from the app thing, which had us go meet Howard at the docks. Howard was this pigeon man from the last game who lost his wife, but had pigeons to keep him company. And we basically just had to take his pigeons to some other place for him, since the poor lad ended up dying in peace right there after we left him. Low-key kind of tragic, and it gave us 2 trophies for both his mission and me finishing all of the others. I then did this dumb mission for Miles and his mom, who had some art show. But after NFTs, art is all fake anyway, but this trophy isn't. I then did the Hunter Blind side quest line, which was quite a long grind since you need to take out a ton of enemies in the process. And while I was doing these, I grinded out the Webline Stealth Kills trophy, which popped while I was doing one. After that, I unlocked all the suit tech, and then did this quest line with Wraith or Yuri from the previous game. We were sort of teamed up with her, but also weren't at the same time. And we ended up having a boss fight with her, and while I was in it, I got a trophy for using the Venom skills a lot. I then did some more Hunter Blinds and got the Armed and Dangerous trophy for getting kills with the Spider-Man arms. We then reached the end of the questline with Yuri, and we actually kind of got beat by this cult leader dude who also teased Carnage, which I imagine will be in the next game or a DLC in the future. Thankfully, Yuri saved us, and then the mission ended giving us a trophy. So now I basically just gotta finish the Hunter Blinds and some collectibles, and we are done. First though, I gathered a total of 10,000 tech, which was a trophy. And after that, I got the max level finally in the game, which is 60. And we finished off the Hunter Blind missions, which didn't lead to anything, just some more lore about Kraven the Hunter and his horrible family structure. I also bought all the gadgets in the game and finished all of these nature experiment things, which are supposed to help New York be more self-sustained or something. I then found all of these spider bots, which gave me 100% district completion everywhere. And then we got this little cutscene which teased at something that I didn't really get, but it gave us a trophy after for the spider bots missions themselves. I then finally bought all the suits, which was surprisingly easy when done with everything. And I only had 3 trophies left. The first had us find the trophy from Miles and Finn's science fair win, visit Aunt May and Uncle Ben's grave, and then travel from the financial district to some other place on the map by only gliding. And once I did that, I got the platinum trophy pop right after. So Spider-Man 2, honestly a pretty good game, but my review of it isn't perfect by any means. I would say that it was a good game and I liked it a lot, but honestly I don't think it deserves a 10 out of 10 because the open world, while it is bigger than the last two games, it's way more empty, and there isn't really anything to do once you 100% the game. Which this wouldn't be a problem if that was harder, but the platinum only took me 22 hours to do, and I played on the hardest difficulty and I wasn't rushing anything. So I think if they just made the side quests longer or added more, it would have been better. But I just feel like they should have and definitely could have added more to the game. So it's kind of sad to see the game fall a tad bit short, but then again, everyone expected it to be this amazing thing, and it just wasn't really quite there. But I'm not trying to say it's a bad game by any means because it's still better than anything I've played recently. So anyway, thanks for watching, and if you want to see me platinum other Spider-Man games from before the current ones, then make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more.